Hey everyone, let me just start over. It's Cassandra Williamson, and I am coming to you from a holler in eastern Kentucky. And you can't see me just yet. I've kind of got the camera going everywhere. All right, so here we are. And whew, I'm going to step outside and get my brother to come back in. He's out in the back. We got to do a little sing along for happy birthday. You ready? So, how are we going to do this? I wonder if I can do a multiple camera with my phone. Let me get my phone. Hold on. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? I don't see my phone. I know my phone's back here somewhere. Where did it go? Well, I don't see my phone. Hi, everybody. Whew. Oh my gosh, it's hot. What is going on with my telephone? Did I put it somewhere where I can't find it? Whew, it is toasty back in here, folks. I gotta take this off because I'm burning up with that thing on. Well, where is my telephone? I just had that. I'll just lay it right there. It's charging. That's what I'm doing with my phone. It is charging. Okay, I found it. Now let me see if I can do this. I don't know if I can or not. I'll just leave it like this. So anyway, there's been a lot of stuff going on. I hope you don't mind the little rough around the edges, getting all this stuff going. I've been in the kitchen making let me see, a T-bone steak for my brother and a couple other steaks I had in there for mom and myself and Irma, as well as some baked potatoes and you know, oh, and his favorite cake is a pineapple upside down cake. I tried to make it in a way that it would be. I turned it in, I put it in a pan, and I left the brown sugar out. So I dumped it all out. I took it out, carefully flipped it over so the pineapples and the maraschino cherries were on the top, and I sprinkled brown sugar all over that and put it back in the oven for a few minutes. I'm hoping that works out all right. I think it looks all right. We'll see how it turns out. I don't know how it's going to taste, but anyway, he's 65 today, and he struggles to breathe in a big way. And so, what I'm going to do here in just a second, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to turn on my phone and go over to that screen for my Restream streaming service and see if I can do two cameras and pull up another camera over here on my scene because I do want to talk about some things. Yeah, the first thing I do want to say before we even jump into anything at all, Irina Zarutska, who was killed in Raleigh, North Carolina, by that idiotic, mentally insane person, is a disturbing event. Horrendous loss of life for that Ukrainian girl who has been here a couple of years. That is horrendous, folks. But that's not the biggest thing. I mean, that's big. That, don't get me wrong, that is a massive thing. That's huge. But the thing that's just as bad, just as equally disturbing is not a single person on that train even moved when that guy got up and he's dripping blood going down the walkway. And they didn't get up and do a damn thing. Somebody should have taken that guy down in a hurry. I know there were women in there. I know there were men in there. Somebody knows how to do all that stuff. You don't sit there blindly letting somebody else kill another person. That is symptomatic of a big problem in this country right now, is that you turn the other eye when somebody does something wrong. When you see someone being evil, acting stupid, and you turn the other eye because you think it's none of your business. Yes, it is. We live in a social place, a social environment. Everything around us is that way. for someone to not act. They were within 5 or 6 feet of this girl who got killed, Irina Zarutska. And that guy just got up out of the seat behind her and then just stabbed her in the neck with a knife. And I'm going to tell you, he and I would have had a huge fight on their hands. I mean, he might have hurt me. He could have done anything. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me, but he would not have gotten out of there without a scratch. And for them to sit there, those people ought to be taken to court too. Those people should be taken to court because they did not stand up and fight for that girl. And they did not try to take down this monster who, dripping blood as he's walking down the train in front of them. Nobody turned around. A man over on the left side, blithely just going about his business. The woman sitting over on the right side did absolutely nothing. I think she basically may have glanced towards the girl. And as the guy's walking right, she saw this woman was dead probably, or hurting at the very least. She should have thrown everything she had at that darn guy, that monster who walked by her with that the blood falling out on that train. Why didn't you act? You think, it's none of my business. Bullshit. Another person lost their life. I don't know that you would have been able to stop it, but that guy should have been stopped in his tracks right there and had the crap beaten out of him for what he just did and pinned to the ground. Everybody on that train ought to be piling on that guy. They didn't. So I say take them all to court. Take them to court and sue the crap out of them for not standing up for another human being. Yes. It boggles the mind that people don't do that. I can't tell you how many times I've intervened in situations like that. Not that bad. No, by no stretch of imagination was it somebody killing somebody else. I remember an incident down on Fort Hood in Texas. And this is nowhere near this. Okay, the similarities end at the fact that this person died and this what was happening in Texas when I was down there at Fort Hood with my family out on a lake. There's no similarities, but the response is something that they should have done something about. They're on that train with this girl, Irina Zarutska. The entire train, everybody on there, they watched this guy walk down the aisle with the blood dripping from his knife. He should have been pinned to the ground and had the crap beaten out of him. So I say sue every freaking one of them on that train that didn't move. You got a girl dying right there, 5 feet, 6 feet from the two right man on the left and a woman on the right. What was wrong with that? I say, and I'll say it again and again and again. You watched that man walk down that aisle and you saw blood dropping from his knife or his hands and you didn't try to stop him. I'll see you in court. You need to be sued big time. Failure to prevent a death, an accomplice to death, because you did not act. Righteously angry about that. The situation in Texas that I dealt with once, these two young soldiers were out on this pontoon out in the middle of this it was a beach area out there. And there was a pond, there was styrofoam all around this thing on this little platform they were standing on. They swam out to it, got on it, and they were tearing that thing apart. It was a float out there for people to go out there and jump into the water or whatever, swim from, stuff like that. And they were a good 150, maybe 200 feet off the shore. I saw it. Everybody else did too. The beach was crowded. Did anybody do anything? No. It's not the same by any stretch of imagination, but this is the kind of mentality that we need to get people back to. Looking out for your brother, looking out for your sister, looking out for people around you, and not putting blinders on and pretending you have no responsibility in this stuff. So I swam out there and told them, This was long. This was, oh my God, when was this? This would have been back in the 90s, 30 years ago, early 90s, may have been even late 80s. So I swam out there and I told him, I said, "You're destroying government property. You need to stop now, or we're going to have a problem. I'm getting the MPs out here to address this issue." And they said, "Who the hell are you?" And I said, "Well, just call me Lieutenant Williamson at that time. And you're standing here destroying government property, and I am witnessing it, and I'm telling you to stop." They did. Not a soul on that beach, 200 feet away, was doing anything except live and let live. They were not getting involved in it. They didn't want to stand up to anything. In another situation, I saw a young boy being beaten to death by someone who had knew a little bit of karate and stuff, and swinging his legs all over him and stuff like that, about to beat the crap out of him, but didn't. He was just playing, and actually, there was punching. There was a lot of punching going on too. I saw it and called him out on it. Much bigger guy than me. The guy came over and sit down beside me. The one who was doing all the punching and hitting the other person came over and sit down beside me, and then started to try some of that with me. And I just turned around and looked at him. I said, "Yeah, okay, one touch, and we're going to have a go around." He got up and left. If you sit there and you don't call out behavior that is evil and bad, you're culpable. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Now let's get back to the main topic for the day. This is my brother's birthday, and I wish my brother Gideon a happy birthday. He turned 65 today, and it makes me feel like I'm well, I am older. So I fixed his favorite cake, which his ex-wife told me was a pineapple upside down cake. I had to turn it upside down to put the I left out the brown sugar that goes on the top. Anyway, so I put the brown sugar on. I've turned it upside down into another pan, and put it on, put it back in the oven. He also has a T-bone steak in there that I fixed, and I'm hoping he's in there eating it. I don't know. He went out to his shop. I said, "You got about 15 minutes. You got to come and eat." But we'll see. We'll see. I tried to put candles on. I was going to put 65 candles on there, but that wasn't going to work. The candles just started melting a little bit. Yep. So, final thought before I get into all of this stuff. We all know about what's been going down in Florida, right? We all know about what Aaron Reed of Aaron in the Morning pointed out in an email blast, I think it was yesterday, from her Substack. You know about that case or the situation where the House committee put out and approved a piece of legislation that says that we will take away all funding. No money will be used to fund anything to do with gender affirming care, or to address anything to do with gender dysphoria, whether that is physical, psychological, mental, anything, or affirmation in social situations. No money will be spent toward any of that, regardless of age. I've been warning you of this for a number of years now. It even got me in trouble with some of you because I pointed it out, and I called Kevin Roberts and Trump fascists. They're fascists in a certain different way, a modern version of a fascist. They've got to do it in a certain different way, but it's still authoritarianism on steroids. I tried to warn people of that 2 years ago, that that's what was coming if we allowed Project 2025 to occupy the White House. What have we got? Nearly 80% of that thing, the mandate for leadership, has been completed under this administration in every conceivable thing. They did it in a blitzkrieg fashion. They went in and go, and everybody in the country and the world is going, "What the heck happened?" Trump's had 4 years to prepare for this period of time. He realized he had made some mistakes in being able to accomplish the goals he wanted in the first term. So he skipped the next 4 years and actually used that to figure out how to do it even worse or better or worse or whichever one you choose. But so we got it on steroids right now. It's blitzkrieg happening across the whole of federal government and all of the agencies and all regulations. Yes, there's a lot of regulations that need to go in by the way of the dodo bird. We know all that's the case, but yet in a blitzkrieg fashion, we have been absolutely steamrolled. What you thought was not possible just a couple of years ago, seeing troops on our streets, we're seeing it now. We're seeing it now. It was done incrementally, just a little bit at a time. Test here, test there. They tested it in LA, and the Supreme Court sided with them here recently. They can go do anything they want to do there now. In other words, they will stereotype anybody, and if you look like or think like or talk like somebody they're looking for, they're going to stop you. And they don't care whether or not you are born in America or not. They will stop you and verify who you are. Does that sound like anything that's we've remotely seen somewhere in the past? Not in the US. So what's happening is we've been slowly just kind of eased our way into this occupation by the Stasi from this president. And that's what it is. It has been a military takeover of this country. You don't think so? You're not paying attention, folks. You're not paying attention. You're going to call me hyperbolic all you want. You're going to say you're just talking about, you don't know what you're talking about and all that kind of stuff. You're saying all these kind of things. And I'm going to tell you something. That's exactly what's going on. Every checkbox on the way to authoritarianism has been checked off. So I don't know what else you're supposed to call it. Every checkbox, everything. I mean, people have been studying fascism and authoritarianism and abuse of power and stuff like that, and how they all kind of intermingle and tie together. They've been studying it for years. They've been studying it with Mussolini, Benito Mussolini. They studied it with Hitler. They studied it with Franco in Spain, Chavez, all these different authoritarian leaders, including present day Putin and Xi, and the ultra dictator, of course, Kim Jong-un, and the theocratic dictator over there in Iran, the Ayatollah Khomeini. People have been studying these things. We know how it goes. So what's happening is this. Let me see if I can pull up a scene here, and I'm going to show you something, and then I'm going to talk about Florida and a couple other places. Hang in there. Hang in there. I do appreciate everybody watching, but I don't know how else to go about all this. Okay, because what we have is just an absolute disaster. Let me get these things in my screen here. I don't know which one's going to pop up first. Oh, look at there. There's a mashup of Hitler with Donald Trump. Now, look, I know Donald Trump is not Hitler, but a lot of the stuff he's doing is right out of Mein Kampf. It's right out of the process and the steps and the procedures that Hitler used to move Germany from the 1920s all the way up through his demise. The stuff that he did there, the stuff attacking minorities, the stuff attacking academics, it's a playbook. The playbook is happening again. I don't know why we can't see that. It's there. This is what I think is happening. We've become acclimated to it. This country has become acclimated to what's going on. They were brought into this nice, cool, refreshing little sauna, and they said, this is going to make you feel better. And we'll just kind of regulate the temperature just a little bit. We'll help you get in here and we're making you feel good. Well, you've been washed in the blood of the water that's in that pot right there. It's going to make you feel good. It's got a lot of religious overtones, and that's deliberate. Hitler was into it as well. He was into the occult and all kinds of stuff. He knew how to manipulate people. And if you think Trump doesn't, you got another thing freaking coming. That man is a master manipulator. So you get in this nice, cool little sauna, and you're steaming off, and you're making sure all your pores are opened up, and everybody's just feeling so good about themselves. They come out of the sauna and they go, "Oh yeah, I think I'll just get back in. It's wicked outside there. I'm gonna get back over here in Trump sauna because Trump sauna feels so good. Oh my God, that is ever. It just feels so awesome. I feel like I've been cleaned off and washed in the blood of Jesus right here. Gonna have a religious experience." All the time not realizing that you've been staying in that sauna and they turning the temperature up on you. And they keep turning it up and you don't know it because you're cold blooded like those frogs. To the point that they're just going to scoop you up out of there with a big ladle that says, "Okay, here's lunch, somebody. We got another one. Put them over there on the platter." Frogs do. Put that one over here. We were able to do what we wanted to do because we told them that it was a nice, cool sauna at first, and it got warm, and it's a nice warm sauna, and then it felt like they were being washed off completely, and they'd been dipped into the river and baptized and brought back out. All the while being fed a bunch of lies to make you feel good, to make you feel like we no longer have to worry about being afraid to walk through the streets of Washington, D.C. We no longer have to be afraid to walk through the streets of Chicago or Boston or LA, coming to a city near you, red or blue. It's coming to you. And then you're going to look at it and say, "We voted for this. We actually voted for this. We want safe streets." Yes, we do. I get that. I do. But we have, they're not with the military. Hmm. So down in Florida, let me just put it like this. I'm going to say, if I put a little thing across the screen right now, if I put a little thing across the screen and it says, "In Florida, your doctor says your child needs a vaccine." And across the screen it says, "The state says that's a parent's choice." And I'm going to say, your doctor says your child needs gender affirming care because your child has been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. And the state says, "That's illegal. We're not going to let you do that. We're going to stand in that door," just like George Wallace did back in '63 when he said, "Segregation today, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever." It's the same crap, different period of time. Same crap, different period of time. Dr. Joseph Ladapo, who happens to be the Surgeon General for the state of Florida, stated that it's the parent's choice. This is parental rights, protecting parental rights. And he said that while he was removing the vaccine mandates. You know what vaccines are for? Infectious diseases. You know what gender dysphoria is? It is not infectious by any stretch of the imagination. And I wouldn't want anybody to catch that because that is not an experience most of you could never handle it. You couldn't handle it. You're weak. Couldn't handle it. You could not handle what it takes to live authentically with yourself and the world around you. And I don't know why I got fuzzy right there. Let me back up. Ah, there we go. So that's what the state down in Florida said. Parental rights. We're going to let you decide whether or not a vaccine is important for you, your family, and your child, or your teen children, or whomever in your household. We're going to let you make that decision. That is a parent's rights to make those decisions regarding the health care of their children in consultation with their doctors. And the state is not going to get in between you and your doctor and your children to make sure that we're not going to tell you what you need to be doing. We're not really concerned about how infectious a disease may be. If somebody from your school, if your child's school, I mean, if they're unvaccinated and they bring in polio or measles or rubella or smallpox or any other number of diseases that can be caught, that's a vaccine required to stop it, or at least to put it under control, 98% or 95% control. If another child gives your unvaccinated child that, then, That's on you, because the state said that you have parental rights that they are protecting here. You have the right to choose the health care for your child. And it doesn't matter whether or not you, your child, your dog, your cat, and everybody in the house dies because you caught an infectious disease. But lo and behold, if one of your children is gender dysphoric, or someone in your house is having difficulties with a pregnancy, the state's going to step in then and say, look, we regulate those things, but they don't regulate infectious disease responses with vaccines. No, we're not going to tell you what you can do about that one, but we're going to say over here on the side that if you have gender dysphoria or someone in your house does, then hey, we have every right to stand in that door and shout to the world. No, no, no. So it's not really about parental rights, is it? It's about power. It's about control. You know, when that vaccine mandate was lifted, and it is absolute control when that person who does that in that state of Florida, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, let me get it right, Ladapo, when Dr. Ladapo says the vaccine mandate is lifted because of parental rights regarding an infectious disease, but says that we are going to stand there and block you from getting medically necessary care for your child who is gender dysphoric, or someone in your household is gender dysphoric, but they're going to stand there for that, though. That's just a bridge too far for these weak-kneed, lily-livered bunch of crap holes. Oh my God! I mean, does that make sense to anybody? What lifting? I am just baffled by that. But here's the thing. Let me see if I can pull up another thing over here. Where's the one that I do want that's up here? Let me go over and find it. I know I've got it here somewhere. I thought I did. Well, where is it? Oh, is that it? No. Anyway, there was a bill that Aaron Reed talked about. That there was a bill that came out of the Appropriations Committee in the United States House of Representatives that says no funds shall be used for anything to do with the social and medical psychological care for anything to do with gender identity or gender dysphoria, that those people are on their own. No money will be there to help them from anything whatsoever. No funds will be spent on that. Effectively, they're saying people with gender dysphoria, hey, you can crawl back under that rock. Or you can crawl back under the floorboards in the back of that closet and nail the thing back down on top of your head and pour concrete on top of you, because we don't think you have a right to be living freely in this country. And then you had the report coming out from DOJ, unconfirmed, but still substantiated by a number of different media sources, saying that they were going to look to prevent transgender people from owning guns. It's blatantly unconstitutional, yes, but nonetheless, it's probably just a scare tactic, but that's the way this whole administration works. They throw stuff out there at the wall in the hopes that you will see it and respond to it or react to it, left or right. When the left responds to it and they get all righteously angry about it all, like I have been, the right goes over here and goes, oh, look at them. They're just flying off the handle on this joke that got thrown out there. And then the same thing happened with Trump whenever he put himself out there in a meme on Truth Social that said, that basically says, you know, remember the show called Apocalypse Now, the movie? I think it was Martin Sheen, I think. I can't remember exactly, but I could probably look it up, but I don't have time. But you have this scene that has helicopters flying through Vietnam, and here is a voice with Martin Sheen, he's hanging out of a helicopter or something like that, going up one of the rivers in Vietnam, helicopters in the background, and Martin Sheen, or whoever the actor was that said it, says, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Trump turned that around and he goes, I love the smell of immigration enforcement in the mornings. Put himself in a macho, masculine big hat, you know, and an all muscle bound 79-year-old, 79, but 89-year-old person. You know darn well doesn't look like that. He's ate too many cheeseburgers along the way to do that. But it's not about that. It's about image, controlling the narrative, getting you acclimated to do with this over and over again. These little things get thrown out there, and then people stop talking about it because they think of it as a joke. But then that's talking about the DOJ thing with the guns for trans people. You're talking about how Trump sees himself flying up the river in a helicopter going, I love the smell of napalm in the morning when he's talking about immigration roundup, illegal immigrants or illegal aliens that being rounded up in the country. But here's the thing. It's in the pot. You're in the sauna. It feels good. Your pores are open. You've been washed in the blood of the darn dirty river that you got bathed into and baptized in. That's just the first step, folks. These people actually do this incrementally. They'll throw it out there a little bit, and then the next time they actually do something and slap you up the face, and you realize, oh my God, he actually meant that. These people are lunatics, but they're also extremely, extremely strategic. And if you don't think strategically, you can't keep ahead of them. If you're not doing any of those things, you will have your butt handed to you on a platter. Sit back and do nothing all you want. But don't be like the people on that train down in Raleigh when that young lady from Ukraine was killed by this freaking nutbag psychotic person. And no one did anything. Let me see what the comments are real quick. I'm going to Junior. Hi, Jenny. I didn't vote for Trump. I know, I didn't either. No. Oh, okay. I've been talking about it for more than 12 years myself after seeing an interview with, let me put this up here. I'll put myself back up on the screen too. Oh, yeah. Yeah, more than 12 years after seeing an interview with Kevin Roberts on CBS about what you were talking about, but they were not calling it that then. No, they weren't calling it that then. No, they had a mandate for leadership. They've had one every 4 years since Reagan. They had a mandate for leadership for Reagan from the Heritage Foundation. Reagan was able to accomplish about 30% of it, 25 to 30% of it before time ran out and they couldn't do anything more. But they've had one all the time. They had one for President Bush, the first President Bush, and the second President Bush. They've had one every 4 years. And it's always been horrendous. Now, Roberts hasn't been the instigator behind all of it. He actually was president for a Catholic university who got brought over into the Heritage Foundation probably 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. But it's always been out there on the deep end. Always has been. Okay, let's stop with the boiling frog story. It's not really a good explanation about what's happening. Oh, well, actually, yeah, you may have to enlighten me a little bit on that one. For me, it's actually like a sauna, and people are in there just getting themselves cleaned up and washed off. They're being baptized in the water of Jesus Trump. That's what they're doing. They're just slowly being boiled to death, and they don't know it. It'll kill them in the end. Okay, and let me see what else you said here. Jenny, thank you for being here, by the way. You also have to realize the Democratic politicians wanted this too. Otherwise, they would not have been calling for Joe Biden to step down. Well, yeah, that's partly true, but Joe Biden, they already knew was in bad shape. And I got to see him a couple of times, 2 times in the White House. And I don't want to spend any time on going back to that. There was I know what was going on. I mean, I was pretty close to him. I didn't get to talk to him directly myself, but I was within just a couple of feet listening to him talk and chat, and he was very engaging with people. And it just grew steadily worse over time, and they knew that they would not win with him. And sadly, that's the case. But then, and I supported Kamala Harris because she was a much better person, a much better human being than Trump or anyone on his team would ever be. I knew that. been watching Trump since the late 70s. Actually, well, no, I take it back. It was like early 1980 when at the Naval Academy we had to read a story every day and be able to talk about it from the newspapers. We all got newspapers and stuff brought to our room, sent to our rooms, and you had to be able to talk about a front page story as well as a sports story every day. If you go into the mess hall and you're sitting there with your eyes in a boat and you're trying to eat, and then some upperclassman across the table looks at you and says, "Hey, what'd you read on the front page today?" And you have to be able to communicate clearly exactly what you read. But you may also have someone across the table says, how many radar dishes are on one of the Soviet destroyers? Or what's the sixth general order? Or what'd you read on the sports page? And that's a rapid fire constant the first year, unless you beat Army. And then after Christmas, if you beat Army, you can skate through the rest of it with all that. But okay, I'm going to ask Ian to stop with frog references. It's just not what's happening. I disagree, Jenny. It actually is. Do you have a better way to describe it? Do you have a better way to describe it? It's just stormtroopers been stormtroopers. Yeah, but the thing is, trying to sell fear is not okay. Let me get this one up here. It's just stormtroopers being stormtroopers and trying to sell fear that has nothing to do with boiling frogs or anything of that nature. I understand that I do to a certain degree, but people actually key on to these analogies that they have. We grew up with those kind of analogies as a way to describe things. And fear is what motivates people to get into that sauna and to stay there. That's what motivates people to get in there and crawl into the ditch with them, not realizing that the goal is their utter destruction. And they can't see that because it feels so good to be cleaned off in that nice, cool water. So it's an analogy that, unless you got something better to describe, kind of analogous to that. And the stormtrooper thing, yeah, I get it. I understand that. The stormtrooper thing makes a sense. But see, it's beyond just the stormtrooper thing. The stormtrooper thing would be like seeing the troops on the streets rounding up people. I get that too. But it goes way beyond that. It's much deeper than that. This is an ideological drive to shift the country as far over to the right as possible. And stormtroopers are just emblematic of one of the steps that, Mussolini would have done, Hitler would have done, Franco did, all of them did. All of them used that power. But that wasn't the thing that was driving it. There was their search for power that they wanted to go for. They wanted to just have power, to be able to rule over them, to restore their national pride, and all that kind of stuff, to kind of make the country great again. That was in Spain, that was in Germany, that was in Italy, and that's what we see right here. So stormtroopers is part of it, but not the whole picture of it. And at least that's my way of taking it. I hope you can get that and not taken aback by that. But I'm going to stick with this analogy until I have something that's a little bit better that encompasses all of it and not just the stormtroopers on the streets. But that's definitely part of it. That's one element of this big picture, that people are becoming acclimated to all of these different things that are taking place around the country. Stormtroopers on the streets, Joseph Ladapo down in Florida going ahead and being hypocritical about removing the vaccine mandate, saying it's a parental right, but then those same parents don't have the right to take care of a transgender child. I mean, all of these things are just that. It's the thing with the DOJ, with the guns for trans people. That's the boiling part. The pot covers, at least in my estimation, it covers that all. It encompasses all of that, including the stormtroopers, the gun part, as well as the bill that's coming out of the House of Representatives that was passed out of the House that likely will not make it in the Senate, but you have to be prepared for it. Trump's penchant for tying himself to historic events, like not historic events, but the movie even Apocalypse Now, It's the rhetoric around all of it that is of concern to me as a big picture kind of thing. And yeah, I understand completely what you're saying about the stormtroopers, but in my estimation, and I could be totally wrong, I get that, but in my estimation, that's just one part of this whole thing. Okay, I've got to run check on people, go get my food, and tell my brother happy birthday, happy 25th, yeah, happy 65th birthday today. His favorite cake, pineapple upside down. I'm going to try to eat the food and not eat the cake. We'll see how well that goes. Have a great evening, everyone. Okay. Okay. Either for good or bad. Okay. So either for good or bad, I don't know what it is about fear, but it motivates me to go toward it and stand up against it. I've been doing that very thing since me too. Absolutely. Absolutely. If there's something out there that you say that should frighten everybody else, well, I'm with you. I'm going to be the one running into the middle of it. That's why I exist fully, openly, honestly, right out in the middle of the street. That's who you see is who I am day in and day out. I'm going to get in your face if you're doing something stupid. And I will tell you, like the people on that train, that if you let this person go by you and you didn't try to stop them and you see a girl dying, having get stabbed in the neck beside within 5 or 6 feet of you and you do nothing, well, I'm going to find a way to take you to court over that because you are definitely weak kneed and lily livered. Anyway, you and I aren't, though, Junior. Thanks. All right. Anyone else want to have a comment or so? I'm getting out of here. I got to go. Bye, everybody. Have a great evening.